Welcome, everyone. We are just adding everyone from the lobby. Just give us a few minutes to get everyone on here. Right. Next. Okay. All right. Everyone's popping in all at once. And wonderful. All right. Well, welcome everyone to today's International Women's Day celebration hosted by OnActuate. We are a global technology and consulting firm, but today is not about that. Today is all about bringing together leaders in the community to take part in a panel discussion exploring equity for women with a special focus on the tech industry. International Women's Day isn't until March 8th, but today, March 1st, is actually the start of Women's History Month. So we're excited for you to join us for this timely event. Before we all get started, I just have a few housekeeping items. Go to the next slide. Thank you. We appreciate you joining today. We've muted everybody to limit background noise. But if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to put those in the chat and we'll make sure to keep an eye there and answer those for you. And then just a quick look at our agenda for today. Fairly simple. We're going to kick off with a welcome message from our CEO and founder, Sharon Oberoi. Then our global HR manager, Alyssa Morell, will speak about our inaugural Women in Leadership Mentorship Program. And then the bulk of today's agenda will be a 40-minute discussion with our amazing panel of talented female leaders. And then Alyssa will close out the event. So without further ado, I'll hand it off to Sharon for the welcome. Sharon?
Thank you, Delaney. Can everybody hear me okay? I guess they can. I think I do want to welcome everybody to the group today. The power of diversity and inclusion in the workplace. I don't think we need any more arguments for it or against it. I think it's a proven fact that the power of diversity and inclusion in the workplace brings a lot of strength to the organization. And as we celebrate the progress that has been made over the last few years to include more women in the technology field, we also recognize that there are still tasks to be done and work to be accomplished to include more women in technology. At OnActuate, I know that we have identified a lot of areas where we can do better, and we would continue to do that. I was going through an interesting McKinsey study some days ago, and I was amazed at the numbers that tell a story. Some of the key numbers were, when you have a science and engineering degrees, nearly half of those are taken by women. However, only 22% or less than 22%, women get employed in technology. If those women get employed in technology, the definition of technology industries is also changing. I feel that every organization today is a technology industry. Whether you have a public sector organization that's dealing with data and numbers and tech, or you have a large car manufacturer who are just primarily working on collecting data and running the cars through software. So every organization, I believe, is a technology organization today. I was fortunate enough to be raised by very strong women, starting with my mother, and now I have a very strong woman who's my daughter, and so I've been very fortunate, and I know. That Miss Miriam Edelman once said, "You cannot be what you cannot see." And we have an amazing panel today who are role models that women can look up to in the industry. And I've been fortunate enough to know some of these incredible women we have, on the panel today. At OnActuate, we are very fortunate to be working alongside with them, whether it's Megan, who is a powerhouse and an authority in public finance, Tara and Sara, who are the real seasoned leaders and the real deal makers at our partners at Microsoft and Ceridian. And my colleague Marnie is a very successful people leader at OnActuate. They've been breaking barriers and paving the way for next generation of women in tech. And each of these women have made significant contributions to the industry. I truly look forward to hearing their insights, experiences, perspectives, and challenges on the opportunities that are facing women in technology today. So their experiences and perspectives will provide very valuable insight into challenges faced by women in the industry, as well as opportunities available for those looking to break through. I'm sure as OnActuate, we have a lot to learn from there that we can implement. So to all the women in technology and industry out there, keep breaking those barriers, keep shattering those stereotypes, and keep showing the world what you're made of. And to the men and who've joined in this event today, let's take a lesson or two from these incredible women and step up our game. The rise of women does not mean the fall of men. It's actually bringing equity to the table. It's bringing gender parity. We hope that today's discussion will inspire and empower women to pursue careers in tech and to encourage our male colleagues to support gender equality in workplace. Thank you and welcome to everybody.
Thank you for that, Sharon. I want to take a moment here to chat about our steps that we're taking on OnActuate. And first, I guess I want to talk about the theme. Embracing equity is the theme of this year's International Women's Day. But we have to ask, what does it mean? How can we act on it? Well, today I wanted to talk about one approach that we're taking out on OnActuate to embrace equity, and with the hope that it will inspire you to take action. Equity isn't about blanket solutions and a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about finding solutions and approaches that fit the needs of the groups and individuals already on your team, and also those that you want to attract to your team. Equity can be easy to overlook. It's tempting to look at the team around you and think, yeah, we're diverse. We support equity, but sometimes that's not enough. It's important to step back and question your actions. Look for the areas where you can make impact in your work, your community, and your family. At OnActuate, we took that step back. We looked at the data. Well, we have great representation at the leadership level, where we're almost 40% female, and we're also doing a good job in non-managerial roles. We realized a gap when it came to women in management, and we could have written it off. We could have said, well, at least we're doing better than the average, using women's traditionally low participation in tech roles as an excuse. But I'm proud to say that we recognized it, and we worked together to find ways to support individuals in a way that fits their needs. Equity. Our idea was this, the introduction of a mentorship program by women and for women. We call it the Women in Leadership Mentorship Program. There are 6 mentors and 12 mentees from OnActuate to meet a few times a month. Sorry, I want to make sure this lovely video is playing. Sorry. So yeah, we have 6 mentors and 12 mentees from OnActuate, and they meet a few times a month for one-on-one support and mentoring to help our mentees identify their goals and come up with step-by-step plans to meet those goals. Mentorship is a really valuable tool that can help women to succeed in their personal and professional lives. A mentor can provide guidance, support, and valuable insights into navigating the unique challenges and opportunities that women can face in their careers. Mentorship can help women develop new skills, gain confidence, overcome imposter syndrome, and build strong networks. It can also provide a source of motivation and encouragement during difficult times. In addition, mentorship can help break down the barriers that often hold women back in their careers. By connecting women with experienced and successful professionals, mentorship can help to open doors and create new opportunities for advancement. Most importantly, mentorship can empower women to achieve their full potential. By providing guidance, support, and a listening ear, mentors can help women to overcome obstacles and achieve their goals. So, throughout the discussion today, I want you all to think about the ways that you can help embrace equity. On that note, I'd like to offer a big welcome to our team of panelists who have joined us today to speak about their experiences of being women working in the tech space. I'll pass it over to you, Delaney.
Thank you, Alyssa, for that great overview. Sharon already spoke about each of our panelists a little bit, and in a moment they are going to do their own introductions, so I won't spend too much time introducing them, but I do again want to thank them for joining. Microsoft, Ceridian, and the City of Columbus are all organizations that OnActuate is very proud to partner with on technology projects, and these accomplished female leaders are just so inspiring and a wealth of information. We're looking forward to a really great discussion. I'll just quickly read through. So we have Marnie from our team. She's the VP of our HCM practice. We have Tara Hamby from Microsoft, who's the Director of Business Applications in the public sector space. We have Megan Kilgore. She is the first ever female city auditor for the City of Columbus. And then we have Sara Joseph, who is the Vice President, Enterprise and Public Sector Sales from Ceridian. So yes, I'm seeing applause pop up. Absolutely. We're so excited for them to join us today. Alyssa, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. This is just an opportunity for each of our panelists to introduce themselves, let us know who they are, who their mentors are. And Marnie, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off, we'd love to hear from you first.
Sure. Thanks very much. And thanks everyone for spending some time with us this morning. So I was just going to tell you a brief story of how I ended up in the tech sector. So I have been in the tech sector now for close to 30 years, and specifically the HR and payroll application side of tech. I really did stumble into it. So I came out of my undergrad with a business degree, but I had majored in human resources and labor relations. And when I looked around at opportunities and jobs to apply for, there was one for a marketing associate for an HR and payroll tech company. So I thought that was quite interesting. So I decided to give it a chance, ended up getting that job and ended up working in technology right out of my undergrad. So it was really a way to utilize my interest in HR, but in a different way, right? And once I got into it, I really ended up loving it. The idea of using technology to, make our work lives easier, better, to enhance and enrich the employee experience as well. So I learned the product, and I went full in. I did most jobs in an organization, so sales, marketing, implementation, training, testing, you name it, I did it. I even attempted to program, but realized that was not my strength. So I decided to back away from that. And eventually ended up on the management side of tech. So it was a surprise, but a really pleasant one. And I've enjoyed the the almost 30 years at this point.
Thank you so much, Marnie. Tara, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Interesting, Marnie. I have a very similar journey, which I suspect many of us will. Also a business major, stumbled into technology vis-a-vis telecommunications, and eventually did many different hats: operations manager, sales, project management, implementation. And here I have arrived with a very non-technical background in a very technical company. It's been a wonderful journey that I didn't expect and have loved and enjoyed. Anyone that knows me and works with me every day will tell you that I love my job. I love working for Microsoft. I love the solutions that we help public sector customers bring to market. And yeah, I'm a mother of two. That's my biggest pride and joy. I have a young woman about to go into tech, hopefully, and a younger son who is in high school. So I have gone through the whole gamut of being a working mother and trying to find that balance as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Tara. Megan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Megan Kilgore. I'm the City Auditor of Columbus, Ohio. And just to simplify that, what does a city auditor do? A lot of my friends think I'm kind of a glorified bank teller. But here at the City of Columbus, the word city auditor go back all the way a couple hundred years ago to our city's charter. Our office is a little bit of a blend of a CFO, a little bit of a blend of a CEO, and a lot of, I say that what our office does is we keep the lights on for the city of Columbus. We are the entire revenue side. And if you could imagine, that has incredible touch points to not only all of our residents in our community, but to anyone doing business or seeking to do business with the city of Columbus and anyone looking to move here. I'll reference this throughout our conversation today, but we are one of the fastest growing cities in the entire nation. And right now we're the 14th largest. We're soon to be probably the 13th largest, but we are growing at such a pace that technology has really helped us meet our needs where we are today and frankly get us where we're going in the future. My role models are the reason why I'm really in the field that I'm in today. When I was young, I had a number of athletes on posters on my wall, but I also had John Glenn and Margaret Thatcher. And I realize this is an international crowd, but that should tell you everything about me. I grew up wanting to be an astronaut in space, which was the John Glenn part, but I also really loved public service, which is why Thatcher and Glenn were on my walls. And fortunately or unfortunately, I was pretty rotten at chemistry in high school. So I quickly pivoted to, let's say, more the arts and sciences and the economics, which is my background. But through that, public service has always remained core to my career as well as my nonprofit interests and so forth. I started out in the public sector. I had the opportunity to work for my predecessor in this office, who was a true legend in the field of public finance. And I went to the private sector. I worked on Wall Street for a few years and really built out a deeper resume. And I love doing that for me professionally. But I also have a really good appreciation for what everyone around the country is doing. And that's one of the most valuable things that I did for myself when I decided to run for this office. In 2017, I campaigned and ran for office, and I was elected for a term beginning in January of 18. And so, as my colleagues referenced, first woman elected to this office, first LGBTQ individual here at the executive branch, here at the City of Columbus as well. And I take that seriously because whilst perhaps the first, certainly not the last.
Thank you so much, Megan. Welcome. All right, Sara, we'd love for you to introduce yourself as well.
Good morning. Thank you. This has been just so fun so far. I'm Sara Joseph, and I'm the Vice President of the United States Enterprise and Public Sector Business at Ceridian. Ceridian is an HCM software company, which really enables the global people platform, and it really helps people and organizations reach their full potential. A little bit about me. I, like the other ladies on the panel, didn't necessarily have this exact plan to be where I am right now. In fact, my career started as I graduated with my undergrad, kind of realizing that the world was my oyster and not quite knowing what I wanted to do. I think I took about 5 or 6 different entrance exams to try and make that be the reason or the guiding light of what I should do. And fortunately or unfortunately, I did well, and then that didn't actually help me inform my decision. So I thought I had a great idea. I'd go be a recruiter, and then I can go see all the jobs that are out there, and then I can pick one. And in fact, that's exactly what I did. And like Tara, I started my career in telecommunications also, and quickly, kind of rose through the ranks of that organization, but also evolved my career from telecommunications to unified communications to SaaS. And so I've been in leadership for the past 15 years. I've been in sales for over 30. It's one of my greatest joys working at Ceridian. Another one of my greatest joys is being a mother. A working mother is definitely the hardest job I think that I've ever had, but it's also one that delivers the most joy. I'm really excited to be a part of today's conversation because this is a topic that is not only near and dear to my heart, but one that absolutely needs more of a platform. And so I really do applaud OnActuate for making the time to do this. And I just really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you
Sarah?
all again for being here.
Sarah, I like to say, because largely I think tech workers work from home, we're stay-at-home working moms.
Exactly. Stay-at-home working moms. That's a good way of putting it.
As someone with a 6-month-old at home, I very much agree.
I thought you might, Delaney.
All right, so we'll move on to our first question of the panel. We've all heard that men will apply to jobs they're 80% qualified for, while women will only apply to roles they're 100% qualified for. Tara, I'm interested in hearing from you. What advice would you give to your younger self in terms of career advancement?
Yeah, I mean, I think this obviously it's a known challenge, right? I think Alyssa pointed this out earlier, right? There's this whole concept of imposter syndrome, like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified enough. What if I don't get it? What if they think I'm not telling the full truth? I think, and I reflect on this, especially right now at this moment in my life, because as I mentioned in my introduction, I have a daughter who's graduating from college who doesn't have a business degree, doesn't have a tech degree, right? But she's very interested in this technology journey. And it's okay. I would say to my younger self, it's okay. Be brave, be bold, put yourself out there, learn in every interview and every experience you go through. What other skills can you pick up? There's so many skills, as Sara, I'm sure, could tell you about, to upskill yourself, to learn outside of school, to learn outside of the workforce, right? In ways and skills that you need to pick up to be qualified, and just go for it. I would say you've heard from all the panelists so far. Our journeys never started out the way we thought they would. I thought I would be an advertiser. I thought I was going to be a creative in Manhattan, writing copy for advertisements. Not at all where my journey led me to go. So I don't know, that's my advice to my younger self, I suppose.
Can I just add something to, I would tell myself to get more comfortable with, self-promotion as well,
Yeah.
being clear about what I'm good at and why, maybe I should have an opportunity to try an assignment that I haven't before or for a promotion. I think that can be difficult for women at times to say what they're good at and kind of be proud of that. Not seem like we're bragging about it. And, part of taking those chances is to be a bit comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? So we all took assignments, I would guess, that made us really nervous, right? But we got comfortable with the idea that that's the spot where you learn, right? Is when you feel that unease, right? That discomfort.
I agree with that 100%, Marnie. And, we all have qualities that bring something additional to the table. Embrace those in yourself. Like, really highlight those.
I'm curious, any of my colleagues remember maybe when you were young playing the game with a little origami. It was called MASH.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you'd write inside, who you would marry, where you would live. That was the Dave MASH: mansion, apartment, shack, house. What type of job you would have, how many kids you would have.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, like mine was vastly wrong, but I remember that because I remember especially at a younger age thinking about like the definition of success being living in the nicest house you could have and
Mhm.
having a really secure longer term position, because that is what I grew up knowing. I grew up with my mother in education, and she taught for 38 years, but that was her career. She was an educator. And I wish we this was also just the timing and just the nature without technology of what careers looked like. But I remember at different parts in my, career being really confounded by, or maybe it was more importantly, a dilemma of what is my next step. And, feeling just like I was going through a lot of questions. When should I leave? What opportunity should I try and achieve? Where should I go? And through all of a lot of good fortune, there were a number of opportunities. And one of the pieces of advice I give to any young woman who comes in and is that there's a power in just saying yes. You can have a couple of opportunities. They're both going to be incredible. They're also what you're going to make out of them. But being uncomfortable in that, they're both yeses. One is not necessarily, especially at the time, any better than the other. You're only going to be given that insight in arrears, where you might say, well, this positioned me for X or positioned me for Y. But being really comfortable that the answer is yes, and because you have that flexibility of trying to pivot and being in control of your own destiny.
I think what I'm hearing across the board from my colleagues, and yes, Megan, I've played MASH and never, it didn't exactly work out as the many outcomes of the game. But, one thing that I just want to bring to the conversation is just my real true appreciation for the just saying yes, and for Marnie's comment around you just give it a try. Many years ago, I was approached about this crazy idea of moving to India to start a business, to take over the idea that we are going to build a business out in this foreign country. What do you think? Can you go there? And at first, I, clutched my pearls and thought, oh my God, why would I be able to do that? But I, maybe, I was hearing the whisperings of my mom, who came to this country to bring our family here with nothing, right? And said, why not? And I went and had not only a completely successful business endeavor, but truly met some of the most amazing people who I will carry with the rest of my journey. So it's amazing what will happen to you and the doors that open when you just say yes.
That is so true. Thank you all so much. All right, let's move on to the next question. Okay, so kind of building upon the conversation that we've already started, Megan, what do you think could be done at either the organizational or individual level to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts?
So, big topic, and tons of opportunities. So, we look at it here in this office as both internally as well as externally. And so, internally, for example, I'm really proud of this. 83% of our management team are women. And they're there because they are the best leaders in the entire country. I believe I have Cheryl Reed on right now. And these individuals are just incredible. They blow me away with their work each and every day. I also would say categorically, they're some of the best empathetic leaders with whom I've ever worked. And that has been so critical, and multitaskers in the last few years as we have had to figure out how to work differently through the pandemic, as well as I would never say that we're not on the front lines, if you will, as we would be if we were physicians in this ER or something, but we are certainly on the front lines of the life or death of a business. who was seeking things like PPP funds. And so the multitasking and the like ingenuity of these individuals with whom I work in figuring out how to deliver our services during the pandemic, I don't think another team in America could have done it. And I give a lot of credit to our leaders in the camaraderie, especially as women, in getting that stuff done. It was incredible. So, with respect to our external, as well as, kind of citywide, we look at everything as to how to most universally design our systems. So this is where technology comes in. How do we ensure that we are broadening our audience as big as possible, regardless of someone's ability to see, hear, English as a second language. We meet them where they are as best we can. And again, that's a key partner with a key reason why OnActuate is such an incredible partner for us is we utilize that technology to help us get there. But our fundamental tenet that is core to our strategic planning, that is core to our daily delivery of services is how do we do more to even the playing field for everyone? And that I think is most important. It has to come from the top, but it also has to be believed and really felt. And I think over time it becomes culturally just the norm. And again, hats off to technology for helping us do more and meet more people where they are.
To add to what Megan just said, and we've heard the term DEI, right? A lot. It's not a term that you heard 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It's sort of come forward in the last several years. Not that the concept itself has only been needed, but let's face it, right? It's important. And what I've learned actually being a part of Ceridian is that the key to really hitting this head on is really boils down to measuring and understanding the data, right? It's the key to unlocking the actionable intelligence so that you are able to understand the makeup of your current and your future workforce, right? And when you have, and this is, Ceridian's talent intelligence capabilities isn't what I'm here to talk about, but I do want you all to know that this is where I've learned so much about the whole notion of bias, right? And how you remove bias, right? And the use of technology to remove the bias. We have, algorithms that are, bias reducing to make interviews blind so that the objectivity is brought back into the fold in a way that, quite frankly, couldn't have been done. I know Alyssa's like, yay, CHRO there. But the point is that, and this is what not only it's important, but this is what organizations are quite frankly being tasked with. And that is the beauty of being a woman in the workforce, is that you're part of the solution to the problem that companies have to solve for, right? And really it's about understanding that, kind of like being in your power, because the question is like, what could an organization do and what can an individual do? You as an individual, you possess power because of who you are as a woman in the workforce. What the organization can do is support you and the narrative around the equity that's needed for the role, whatever it may be, that everyone's got the same chance of being in it.
Yeah, and I really love, I had no idea, Sharon, how inclusive OnActuate is as a culture in terms of your workforce. It's really incredible. I mean, I'll just tell you that, I work for Microsoft, obviously. I was the only woman on my team for 5.5 years. 5.5 years. And we as a company have such a cultural focus on, we call it DI&I, but it's the same as DEI efforts, right? So, and Megan, I just want to take a moment to pause and applaud you and your team for your efforts and what you accomplished during the pandemic. Incredible when you think about, as a public sector entity, how do you meet people where they are in a time where you can't meet anybody where anyone is?
You know, I'll add a couple more. Maybe, you know, Sara, you kind of inspired me, and thank you, Tara. I want to offer some examples because it might be inspirational to others who are out with their respective organizations. So, you know, first of all, I think that way that you phrased it, Sara, was, you know, kind of that, what was it, AI? Was it power? What did you say?
Actionable intelligence at your fingertip.
There you go. I'm going to write that down and remember that.
It's
So,
every piece leaves a digital footprint, and you want to
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for example, in, you know, Columbus, 45 people are moving here every single day. Of those, about 94% are simply diverse, different backgrounds, immigrants, migrants coming from other parts of this beautiful world. But our Columbus City schools, the number of languages, just put in the back of your head, again, 14th largest city, think about the numbers of languages that could be spoken at that school. Just guess, okay? If any of you guessed over 100, I would applaud you. But the actual number is 125 different languages
Holy
that are
moly.
spoken at Columbus City schools. So that we look at that as a direct correlation to our audience, for their parent, for our residents, etc. So one of the things that I think is so easy is obviously the translation and the transitory services that have come about as a result of technology. That is a simple thing for us to do. Ceridian, we're a customer of Dayforce, incredible partner to help us get data on our employees.
Yes.
Meet them where they are. And individuals who are coming out of, and I love when this happens, but when we can help them get banked and get reestablished credit and help them on their path for upward mobility, that is a powerful thing. And we're able to do that using some of the unique tools afforded to us by the technology and Ceridian. LinkedIn, and then I think Cheryl's still listening. I'm not gonna, Cheryl, you have to keep this a secret, but I actually do this myself in this office where I will take a job posting with civil service, with public service. You could imagine they can be really rote, right? They're here they are, this is what it is. I have done this where I have actually changed the wording of the exact same job app written up description, and I've changed the wording to try and appeal to different audiences. And with LinkedIn, factually, we can post one job application that has words like manager, management, supervisor, and we overwhelmingly will have more male applicants. That same application can be reworded and we will generate as much female or more than. That blows my mind, but that is something that I have really tried to understand and tried to intentionally work around so that we're evening the playing field. But I would ask any of you to do that when you're considering hiring. It's a super easy thing to do. It's just a cost of your time, but take a look at that. And the last two that I would leave you with is, for example, we implemented a brand new tax system. Anyone in Central Ohio who pays taxes will use it. That tax system, you know, when you're filing your federal taxes, consider, for those of you who are in the US, I'm not sure how it's done in Canada, but for those of you in the US, consider that you do not file anything about yourself really demographically. So we're not able to infer, for example, federally right now, the perpetuation of systemic racism through things like tax credits geared towards extreme wealth, longevity of wealth. We're not able to infer how individuals who are without, you know, let's say owned real estate, how that fares on a national level. So as we've embedded our tax system in at the City of Columbus, using technology afforded to us by Microsoft D365, we've actually tried to track proxy data. Because again, it's not tracked by your taxes, but we can look at this by census tract and try and back into those same numbers. So I hope that maybe gives you a little inspiration on things that we're able to do to hit the D&I just perhaps a little bit more indirectly.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to the next question. All right, Sara, what career advice would you give to women or working mothers who want to get into tech or are currently working in tech?
Wow, that's a great question. What I'd want you to know is that women and mothers are valuable assets to tech companies, okay? That's really important, okay? Women and mothers are valuable assets to tech companies. You're wondering why, okay? The reality is that this group of individuals, they make excellent workers and are incredible leaders, okay? I'm not just saying that. McKinsey has done studies. The St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank did another study that, quite frankly, that indicates that parents, moms, women are more productive at work than those who don't fall into that description. And it also showed, and this is really interesting, that this group also displays greater ambition, right? And I really kind of honed in on that because it keyed me into something. As a woman, whether you're in technology or any work, I think if I said the term glass ceiling, or we talk about like pay inequity, right? These are topics and conversations that have really been ingrained in our minds. Like, I knew about that when I was 15, right? Let alone more than 15 now, right? And the reality is I've always operated with I have to get what I have to get as quickly as I can get it. And that's what drove that. The other thing that we have to think about is that, listen, if you're looking to break into tech and you're thinking, how am I going to do this? Because there's many people who have stopped working, right, to care for their children. And then they think, how do I come back to work? I can't do anything. I haven't done anything. You couldn't be more wrong. You have so many transferable skills. It's off the charts. Think about it. As a technologist or a sales leader or a publicly elected official, the fact of the matter is you need to have good communication skills, problem solving skills. You have to have resilience. You have to be a logical thinker, and you have to be creative, right? And all of those things, I think I employed yesterday afternoon with my teenage daughter's drama. You see what I mean? It's completely transferable. And it's important that you understand your power, right? Listen, mothers do have a natural capacity to shift perspectives on a dime, okay? Some of the VPs in my organization, I'll be on a hardcore forecast call. My daughter will walk in, I'll be like, hold on one second. Are you ready for ballet? Get dressed. Go and do that. Okay, you've got 5 minutes. All right. And I'm right back. Okay, Q2, where were we? And they're like, how do you do that? And I'm like, don't know how to be any other way but, right? And so understand that doesn't make me a superhuman. It is something that's been inherently developed in me because of my ability to and desire to, succeed and move forward. Aside from us as individuals, I want you all to also understand something. Your company benefits greatly by you being there because you directly affect the diversity of the workforce. Okay, that's important and that's power. people of all genders, colors, cultural backgrounds, preferences, whatever it is, bring fresh perspectives, right? And that's ultimately what's going to differentiate the organization that you're a part of. And the wonderful thing that's happening, the revolution that's happening in the world today, here in, at least the United States, North America, is that organizations are embracing this in a way that they quite frankly haven't had to do before. You know, to be very specific, when asked like, okay, how do you like manage motherhood and working? There's an old saying, and anybody who knows me, I say this a lot: plan your work and work your plan, right? When you're thinking about how am I going to do this, this is just daunting. Having a hardcore, whether it's a technology sales job or any role in technology, you have to just think about it. What are the concessions you need to make? What are your financial goals? What are your goals for your children? What kind of time restraints will the things that your personal life need to put on your private life, excuse me, your professional life, and vice versa? It's really important to kind of always stop and center on who you are, knowing that what your ultimate desires are going to fuel your forward action, right? When in doubt, at the end of the day, you've got many roles, right? And so here we are having a conversation about being a working person, a woman, a mother. But at the end of the day, we're also somebody's daughter. We may be somebody's sister. We may be somebody's aunt or somebody's friend. At the end of the day, as individuals, we wear lots of hats, and it's how you are like find graciousness in yourself to be able to wear each hat when you need to, and doing it the best that you can.
Incredible advice. Thank you. Does anybody else on the panel want to chime in at all?
Yeah, I would just say too, for women thinking about technology or technology positions, it's a great industry for just flexibility and balance and being able to manage your day and your time well. So it's very well suited for, like Sara was saying, when you have multiple roles and you're trying to balance it all, it practically works in the tech sector.
Great point. You're absolutely right.
My suggestion is to be very specific. If any of you who are listening today, if you're going and applying for a position and you have the opportunity to sit down and meet with that employer, be very specific about what you need to be successful. It's not an accommodation to get flex scheduling if it makes you more successful. And so I would, I find that when I have had these conversations with some women, it's been apologetic in nature. And I try and just stop and say, no, the greatest gift you can give me is by telling me how we can provide the environment where you can do your best work. We benefit more in the end. So big word of wisdom, be as specific as possible to your employer.
I agree with that 100%, Megan. And I think that carries forward women, of course, but men as well throughout the journey of your professional career, right? When you're young, you might want flex time, but when you become a mother, you might need flex time. You might need things like nursing rooms, right? And then as your children grow, you're going to need sick time. Trust me, you're going to need sick time. And then as they grow even more, right, you're going to need time off to make sure you're at those ballet recitals, to make sure you're at their football games, because you'll never get that time back. And then as you grow older, guess what else? You might need time because your parents are aging. So I love that idea, Megan. Don't be afraid. Just like don't be afraid to apply for the job. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need. Tech is very accommodating.
Thank you so much. I love the idea of motherhood being a superpower, not a weakness. So that was very inspiring. As a young mom myself, I was getting goosebumps during that. So appreciate that. All right, so on to the next question. We all know equity starts at a young age. Marnie, what advice would you give to parents of young girls to help encourage them to pursue careers in STEM? And for anyone on the call who doesn't know, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Yeah, I mean, I think, based on all of our stories, there's probably a lack of exposure about what is out there in those fields. And I think we're making good strides in that in the education system. There's certainly lots of programs that never existed before, introducing children to, the different sides of science and tech. I think when I was a kid, I thought of science, I thought you wore a lab coat and did some experiments, right? It was very specific, right? So I think exposure to the possibility and the types of jobs that are out there in the technology and the science world. And the other thing I thought of when I thought of this question was, really encouraging young people to stick with it, right? If they have a passion, if they have, they really like science, they really like math, they should stick with it because it's such a foundational piece for so many roles out there. And I think what we tend to do, and there's some great research about girls in school and young women and in schools, is that they compare themselves so often that if they're not kind of top of the class, they think they aren't good at science and math, and they drop out, right? Even in the very elite schools in the world, this happens, right? So, you might be one of 50 to get into this school, and you still think you're not good enough because you're not the top of the class. So there is this, this idea of encouraging people to go with what they like, that the path will show itself down the road, right? You just need to kind of stick with it and not worry so much about, where you might rank in a very traditional science or math class.
That's great advice, Marnie. Does anyone else want to chime in about any advice they'd have for parents of young girls?
I think that what's interesting is, and I was talking about this with some friends the other day, there are careers that people can go into today that quite frankly didn't exist 5 years ago, right? And so the reality about, encouraging young girls to get at least their interest piqued a little bit is that you really don't know what the art of the possible for you is, because it may not, quite frankly, have been invented yet, right? So really stay focused on, like, learning about the things that genuinely interest you, because you have, at least in the way, technology continues to evolve, is that if it doesn't exist today, it probably will soon enough. And better yet, you could be the one who creates it, right? And so again, if you can't tell, I'm all about empowerment and ensuring that people understand that what's in them is what can drive them forward. And so as the mother of a young lady who happens to be very interested in the engineering sciences, I tell her the same thing. And Marnie, really great point, because as you were saying that, I was like, oh my goodness, is my daughter like that? Because truthfully, she's a top student and wants to be number one. And I'm like, you go to this great school and you're making A's, and if you make an A minus, it's okay. Don't tell her I said that. But the fact is that, getting there, and you have the right to be there, right? And that's important.
And I also think too, STEM obviously is important. It's important for us to encourage more girls go into the pipeline that is STEM or STEAM, but it's okay if you don't have a science, technology, engineering, and mathematical background. I count on my fingers still, and I've been pretty successful in my career. It's okay. Go after that role.
Absolutely.
Pursue your passion. I hope that I've taught my kids, if nothing else, be authentic to who you are and pursue your passion.
Thank you so much. All right, I think we have time for one more question. So we'll go on to the next slide. And then I think this is a great opportunity too for, if you have anything you want to make sure that you say today, since it's our last question, feel free to add that on. But I'll just throw it out to the group. What more could the industry do to support women in business or tech? And then anything you want to do for your closing. So perhaps maybe Marnie, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I think, I think we talked about, some kind of bigger initiatives and organizations really jumping in and doing great things. But, it's important just to start too, right? So, you can start small within your team, within your organization, and baby steps and get those initiatives out. I think that mentoring is great. Mentoring and coaching is really important. I think that probably, all of us on this panel had those types of resources as we were going through our careers, people we met that really helped us and gave us great advice and helped us through situations at different points in our career. So I really like the idea of being there for other people and sharing your experience.
I'll echo what you said, Marnie. I think the mentorship concept is, I think it's a little, it can be fluid in a good way. I think it's also, meaning the example that you set isn't just about you being in leadership and setting an example. It's about all of us recognizing that we have thought leadership, like, naturally, right? I'll give you an example. Some of the things that I work to do as I lead my team is the proverbial teaching people how to fish, right? It's not about solving the problems for people, it's enabling them to understand the things that need to happen to get to the desired outcome. I had a call this morning with this lovely lady who's part of my organization. She's a seller and she was working on a deal. And we had this conversation and I said, okay, so what needs to happen next? We need to talk to the senior leadership there. You should have seen the fire in her eyes. She was like, you're absolutely right. I'm going to go get this meeting. And I didn't say, give me the person's number, I'm going to go. And no, it was like, in seconds, she's like, I've already actioned this. This is what's happening. And it's about enabling people, because when you do that, you're breathing into people power, confidence, great expectations, and it not only makes them want to deliver for you as a leader, but for themselves, right? And I think that in the industry itself, it all comes down to us recognizing the voice that we really have, right? And owning that narrative.
Sara, one of my new favorite ideas that takes mentorship to the next level was a totally new concept to me, introduced to me by one of our former leaders, Tony Towns Whitley, TTW, we lovingly call her, which was this concept of beyond mentorship, advocacy, right? Find yourself an advocate who understands the organization and who can look for career moves that might be a match for you and promote you into those. So an important turning point, I think, from when you're younger and you're sending out hundreds of resumes to try to get a job is the concept of people coming to you, or just basically what TTW was saying was, let me help place you in the job with my network and advocate for why that's a good spot for you. I think tech could do a better job at that. It's really hard to find an advocate, but when you do, it's fantastic because they know you, they know what you're passionate about, they know what they can match you with, and they can help you figure out how to get there.
Two things that I would add just to complement the others. For example, Sharon's participation today tells me that this is top of mind for the company. That's really important. You know, when I speak to organizations who have, you know, their people officer, their D&I coordinator at a very low level who does not have access to the cabinet, to the executive team, to the leader, that says a lot more without words than the words of that organization. So I always look at how is the D&I efforts, how are they folded into that respective organization? And really, you know, this is a universal for, number two is universal for any organization, really, regardless of their size. But when I look back at my key milestones that I would say separated me when I was younger, a lot of it had to do with points of access, where I was able to get linked to someone who I wanted to emulate, I wanted to learn from. And that came as a result of a lot of philanthropic individuals who, when I was young, I was in high school, my mom was a teacher, as I mentioned. I got into some really incredible programs because I worked really hard and I really wanted to get access to, like, you know, leadership programs in DC. Well, guess what? They were also really expensive. And so when I was growing up, I was fortunate to have a couple of sponsors, and they were corporate sponsors. Um, just a local business. That sounds too fancy. It was just I grew up in a small town. It was a local business, but that business helped me become successful because they were willing to invest in me. The same thing would apply for any organization. But when I look at that access, the equivalent today is often online. I love the training programs that are available online. I love that I can go and learn new tools on Google Sheets in 1 second and look at something and learn a different language and another, all from the comfort of my own laptop or smartphone. That is incredible. But in order for that to remain free, technology companies, education companies have to continue investing in that. And I like how they have become even more personalized, and so that is something that I do applaud OnActuate for continuing to support, is the education for others. Because that teenager, that ninth grader in high school who's really excited about learning something that is way over my head might just have that appropriate link that sets them on a different path.
Thank you, Megan. And thank you to all the panelists. I wish I could talk to you for 5 more hours. But we are at the end of our session. So just want to thank you again for sharing all of your great advice, great insight, great experiences. We really appreciate it. And we know everyone on the call will as well. And with that being said, I will hand it over to Alyssa for our closing.
Thank you, Delaney, and thank you everyone on the panel. That was so valuable. Well, now that we're at the end of this year's International Women's Day event, I want to take a moment to reflect on the importance of embracing equity, this year's theme. We've heard about the impact of equity and even the lack thereof in the stories and experiences that were shared today. Diversity is important in the tech industry because, as mentioned, it brings different perspectives, experiences, and ideas to the table. When women are included and valued in the workplace, it leads to a more innovative and creative environment, which benefits everyone. We've seen the research, and we know it's shown that diverse teams are more productive, efficient, and effective. Today, we focus on equity in terms of gender equality, which is necessary and important, perhaps especially in tech. Let's also keep in mind the myriad ways that equity can be acted upon, supported, and promoted. Equity means recognizing and addressing the systemic barriers that prevent people from achieving their full potential. It means recognizing that factors like an individual's race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age, and other factors might make them marginalized or disadvantaged, and it's important to find ways to support them to succeed. We can't assume that everyone started out in the same place or has the same day-to-day experience. Because of this, we need to find tailored solutions. We need to be giving, and we need to be bold. I want to put the call out to each of you, a call to action. let us all leave today with this question. How can we help identify the things individuals need in order to be successful? How can each of us help promote equity? I hope you can take this question with you and discuss it with those around you, not just on International Women's Day, not just during International Women's Month, but as an ongoing journey. I want to thank the panelists again, and thank you to each of you for spending time with us today. It was really great to connect on this important topic. We will be closing, but if you'd like to stay online for a few minutes, we'd love to hear from each of you verbally or in the chat if you want to share any ideas. If you want to share ideas on how you think companies could embrace equity or ways that you've seen equity encouraged and embraced. So feel free to jump in the chat, or if you want to speak up, you can just raise your hand, or I believe you can just unmute and yeah, share any ideas.
I have just a simple example. So when I first started working in the Microsoft space back in my early 20s, I had just graduated from college, something that I didn't realize the power of at the time, but was really valuable is my boss, who she was a big leader in the space. She had been working with Microsoft from the Great Plains days. She made it a point at everything we went to as I was first starting out to take me around and introduce me to everybody that she knew, and to really champion who I was and brag about me in a way that a 21-year-old's not, going to brag about themselves. And so she really kind of cemented in people's minds, this is Delaney. She's spectacular. We're lucky to work with her. And then many years later, when I was laid off from my job during the pandemic because I worked for an events company, a lot of those people who she had introduced me to even way back then, they remembered me and they reached out to me and they spoke to me about job opportunities and they wanted to share my resume. And it really just goes to show that, yes, hard work is important, but also if you can champion the women in your lives, it makes lasting impacts that you can't even imagine.
Yeah, that network of contacts is invaluable, Delaney.
Mm-hmm. Which networking is not my strong suit. I turn bright red and sweaty, and but if you can push yourself to do it, it really is amazing.
Yeah, like what you were saying, helping others, that's networking, right? So you help others and at some point they return the favor, right? So networking isn't about, talking to people when you need something, right? It's a relationship, a mutual relationship that you build over time. So really important. That was a great example, Delaney.
Absolutely.
And for those introverts, Delaney, LinkedIn and electronic communication, but it's been nice. I actually just got a couple of different LinkedIn requests. I mean, this is how opportunities come. This is how networking does exist. And I appreciate that. Everyone, I do need to head off to another meeting, but it's been a delight. I look forward, and if anyone wants to connect with me, with frankly, more importantly, someone who's a lot smarter than I am, Cheryl, who's on this, representing the City of Columbus technology team, please do. We put a lot of effort. Doesn't matter if you work for a Fortune 100, a Fortune 500, or public service, we're working with the same programs, and we're always looking to partner and learn from others. So thank you all. Please reach out, and I'll see you all soon.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you all.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.